Alright, so this is chapter 8, which is the second chapter we'll be covering this semester, and this is dealing with installing Windows. And you will have some labs dealing with this as well. So chances are what we'll end up doing is you'll use some of the third-party software like access to the Microsoft Store and VMware to work on installing this because we don't have simulations that'll do this. But anyways, moving on. So there's a few different situations where you might need to install Windows. Obviously, there's a new hard drive. If Windows becomes corrupt, which believe it or not does happen, and if you want to upgrade Windows, if you're jumping from Windows 7 to Windows 10 or Windows 7 to Windows 8, something along those lines. Okay, so the first thing you got to do is you got to look and see which edition you want to deal with. Okay, so these are the different editions of Windows 8, which we kind of touched on last chapter. Okay, you got 8.1, which is generally for laptop and desktop computers, home, small office, that kind of thing. 8.1 Professional, which includes additional business features and makes it more streamlined for business workstations. Okay, 8.1 Enterprise is going to, one, allow for volume licensing in large groups, corporate environments, and stuff like that. But it'll also allow for additional security features. Okay, so it allows for the encryption of the entire hard drive and all that kind of stuff. So then we also have Windows RT, which is again more for your tablets, your notebooks, other type of mobile devices like that. Okay, so that's the Windows 8 editions. Then we have Windows 7. Windows 7 is going to have the starter edition, which, like we mentioned before, is more of your really basic 32-bit edition. It can't run anything special. It doesn't run Arrow, anything like that. Home Basic has a few additional features in starter, but it still has to run in 32-bit. And well, no, I think it has a 64-bit version as well, but it doesn't allow for Arrow interface or anything like that. Okay, Home Premium is going to be kind of almost like the top of the line for your home package. Okay, so it includes a lot of the features, it includes Arrow interface, it has a 64-bit edition, all that kind of stuff. Professional, again, is going to be more streamlined for that business approach, has additional features added to it and all that kind of stuff. Enterprise has the volume licensing, has the encryption of the hard drive, which is known as BitLocker. And then Windows 7 Ultimate is going to be basically, again, like the best of both worlds, your home premium plus the features from Professional and Enterprise. Okay, so you get all of that built into one operating system. Okay, so once you decide which edition or version you want to go with, you got to decide how you're going to get that version. Okay, so y'all are lucky in that we have an agreement with Microsoft and VMware, where if you are a computer science student here at WCJC, then you get access to our software store. So that means that you will be able to gain access into different operating systems, different pieces of software from Microsoft free of charge as long as you're a student. And you also get the newest versions of VMware Workstation so that you can mess around with different operating systems. But not everybody has that feature or that capability. So you have the OEM or the original equipment manufacturer version, which comes with the computer whenever you get it. Okay, you also have full retail, which means that you basically got to buy it off the shelf. Okay, and that's where a lot of people are having to get their operating system. Okay, the nice thing is with Windows 10 is that they have been giving that away for free and basically allowing you to upgrade from Windows 7 or Windows 8 free of charge. That will not always be the case. They are going to start charging for it here pretty soon if they haven't done so already. But right now, OEM and full retail are going to be your two different ways of actually purchasing the operating system, unless you're going with volume licensing with a business or something like that, and that's also an option. Okay, so another thing you need to consider is whether or not you're going to deal with 32-bit or 64-bit architecture. Okay, 64-bit is going to not only perform better, but it's also going to allow for additional RAM. Okay, it's going to support 64-bit applications, 64-bit drivers, all that kind of stuff. Okay, speaking of which, the 64-bit installation basically has to run 64-bit drivers. 32-bit installation has to run 32-bit drivers. That's really crucial when you start working with device drivers within Windows, because if you try to intermix those, you can run into a lot of issues. So you got to make sure and keep those straight. 32-bit for 32-bit, 64-bit for 64-bit. Okay, and then again, the RAM is the big one with 64-bit installations. Again, 32-bit installations are going to be limited to 4 gigs of RAM, whereas you have the capability of 128 gigs of RAM within 64-bit installations. So you've got huge amount of playroom there. Let's face it, a lot of computers nowadays, if you start using them to their full potential, are going to need a lot more than 4 gigs of RAM. So that's really important. Okay, so if you remember in Chapter 7, I briefly talked about the difference and looking at Windows or Microsoft's minimum and recommended hardware. Okay, so this is basically looking at the minimum standards for running Windows 7, Vista, or Windows 8. Okay, so you can see here the processor, they're looking at 1 gig or faster. Okay, which nowadays you can't hardly find a computer that's 1 gig. They're looking for RAM, 32-bit, 1 gig, 64-bit, 2 gigs. Okay, both of those will make the computer run, like I kind of mentioned before, but it's going to be painfully slow. Okay, it'll maybe get you by for a couple months, and then you'll start seeing a lot of lag, a lot of hanging up, and that kind of stuff. And see, this part here, the hard drive space, I'll tell you right up front, I completely disagree with. Okay, that is just junk. You're not going to run either one, a 32-bit or 64-bit, on that size of hard drive space. Okay, essentially, if you try to run a 64-bit with 20 gigs, you will get to install Windows, you'll get to boot up, but the first time you run Windows Update, you're going to be low on disk space. Because once it downloads those updates, once you install Office, that kind of stuff, you're gone. Okay, the good news here is that hard drive space has gotten cheap. Okay, you can get, 500 gigs, you can get terabyte drives for less than $100. Okay, so that should not be an issue for computers nowadays. And then video device driver, just make sure that it's compatible with DirectX 9 and that it'll work with Windows Display Driver Module, that WDDM 1.0 or higher, which essentially every video driver out there does now. So again, this is the minimum. So it will allow it to run. It will just make your life miserable because it's going to hang up, it's going to be slow, you're going to be waiting forever to do anything. Okay, so I would definitely recommend, at the very, very least, doubling all the information on here. Okay, that will make it a little more bearable for you.